and welcome to Caribbean Focus TV. We're here with Skeeter-Jo Francois at her law firm to give you an immigration update. There's so much chatter about the ongoing administration policies, from immigrant students' visas being taken away to Social Security numbers being canceled. To provide Caribbean Focus TV viewers, families, and friends with the latest information, we're here with immigration attorney Skeeter-Jo at the Francois Law Firm, LLC. She will provide us with an update on the current changes, and we have a lot of questions to discuss with Skeeter-Jo. Welcome to the show, Skeeter-Jo.
Thank you.
So we're going to dive right in because your expertise and the information that you provide our family and friends and Caribbean Focus TV audience is going to be valuable. So have there been any changes to the filing for green cards?
There were some changes, or there are some changes. Some things are more emphasized. They were always there, but they're a little bit more emphasized now.
Okay.
And some things are just taken on a whole new dimension. One of the things happened to be the inadmissibility questions in terms of not just, have you been arrested, or do you have anything in your background that would make you inadmissible to the United States? Now it's also things such as, do you fall into any of these exempt categories? If you don't fall into certain exempt categories with respect to, are you a VAWA? Because when you apply, you have to show that you're able to take care of yourself in the United States. You have to show that you're not a public charge, meaning you're going to be able to take care of yourself, or you have a co-sponsor that is, that can take care of you in case something happens. What I have noticed is, especially with that public charge rule and inadmissibility, now on the green card applications, you have a section that states how much is the entire household income, just in case maybe you have someone extra living with you. They want to know what's the entire household income. The other thing that they are really looking at is, are you going to be able to take care of yourself? In other words, did you finish high school? If you didn't finish high school, up to what grade did you finish? Do you have any college? Did you finish college? Do you have a grad school? If you don't have any of those things, or if you do have those things, still, what are your qualification skills? Do you have any skills? Can you type? Can you read? Is there anything that, because you're not under the exempt list, exempt people that do not have to explain these things are if you're VAWA, if you're a special immigrant juvenile, if you're an asylee. Those people those people are exempt, and they have others, but those are exempt. But if you're not exempt, and most people are not exempt, therefore you have to state what is your skill level, and they're specifically asking it. And with respect to that, if you've ever been on any sort of food stamps, or even if it's WIC or Medicaid, you need to state how long you were on there for. And they're very specific with month, day, and year for that. Oftentimes, a lot of people don't even know that they received Medicaid when they went in to deliver a baby. But oftentimes, if you do not have any sort of health care, the hospitals, the administrators, they come in there and they say, you need to sign this, you need to sign that. And what I found is, it seems as though many people did not know what they were signing up for was Medicaid. They were thinking they were signing admittance to the hospital. But hospitals are a business and they have to get paid. Okay? So, but now what they want to know is, okay, well, if you were on the Medicaid, how long were you on it for? How many months? If you were on food stamps, how many months were you on food stamps for? Did you receive WIC? WIC is something which is women, infant, children, and it's sort of a sustainability or sustenance package that you get where it may be milk or these other things. And that never used to count against you, but there are increasing questions, not just on the green card application, but there are increased questions at the interview with respect to any sort of assistance that you've received in the past. To me, that's the biggest thing. Of course, now everyone must supply the medical, the I-693 with the 485 now. Before, you could send it in separately, or you can send in your applications and then they would send you a letter, can you please supply the medical? Many people did that because oftentimes when you submit the green card, it may take a while for the interview to come up. So when they requested the medical, you knew maybe the interview was close, but you were sort of towards the end of the line. And a lot of people would not submit the medical only because the medical had a timeline. So if you submitted the medical too early or there were some changes, it's very possible you would have to redo the medical. But now, if you do not submit the medical with the application, your applications are being rejected. So you must submit the medical. I think those are the two big changes that's on the application. It's a little bit more detailed in terms of inadmissibility questions, arrests and these sorts of things, any sort of terrorist activities and these sorts of things. So it's a little bit more detailed with respect to that, but it's also detailed with respect to the public charge ground. That's been very, very big right now.
You're saying that if a person applying for green card, they have applied for Medicaid or they've been on WIC or TANF, that may count against them?
It depends on if they see that you're a person who do not want to get off of it. They want to, if you're a person who you were on it, it was for the until the baby was 1, but now the baby's 20, but you didn't stay on it for 20 years, then that's fine. They see that it was for just a temporary period of time. If they see that it was ongoing and you're still on it, it's very possible that your green card can be denied.
Okay. You mentioned VAWA. Can you please explain VAWA?
VAWA stands for Violence Against Women's Act. Okay, it was enacted in the 80s, I believe, under President Biden. And the beauty about VAWA, because we do a lot of VAWA here, the beauty about VAWA is that you can self-petition. You do not need to have your spouse petition for you. What VAWA essentially does, if you're in a domestic violence situation, and the domestic violence could span all gamuts, it could be psychological, torture, it could be a number of things. You do not need the spouse to file the green card for you. What was happening is people would either encourage, maybe someone visited and they would encourage them to stay and they'll say they love them and they'll marry them and things will be great, or someone would come here maybe even on a temporary or fiancé basis, what have you. And they say, okay, we'll get married, they get married, but then they don't want to file the green card application for the spouse. So they were keeping the spouse in a type of servitude, a type of bondage. And it wasn't just the spouse, it could be the children, it could be the parents. And a lot of people don't believe that there are parents that are taken advantage of greatly. I mean, people probably think, oh, it's siblings or it's spouse, but parents also, and of course, children, of course. So what was transpiring is that people were here, they couldn't leave, so they didn't have a way to leave. They didn't have a way to make a living for themselves. So they were sort of trapped. And, in many cases, they were not just physically abused, it was all types of abuse. And they changed the law so that you don't have to have someone who's abusing you hold the fact that they need or you need them to file for the green card for you, you can now self-petition for the green card on your own. And you don't necessarily need a police report or a protective order or any of these things to self-petition. There are many different pieces of evidence that can be used in order to self-petition. And I think that's one of the greatest pieces of legislation that they have, is the fact that you're not stuck in this type of servitude or in this bondage in order to get a green card. Because it used to happen and people were in those for years and they were badly beaten and so forth, and they couldn't get out, they couldn't leave because they didn't have the ability to work. You know, they did, even if they wanted to leave, they didn't even have the ability to travel. And oftentimes, you know, these people have no money. Sometimes they're ashamed to tell their family and these sorts of, so it was a very, very widespread situation that Congress remedied.
That sounds like a very, very intense situation to be in.
It is. There's a lot of crying that goes on in this office.
I can imagine. I can imagine. Well, tell us the difference between a revoked or a canceled visa.
Well, oftentimes, revoked is basically through the Department of State or USCIS or, you know, Department of Homeland Security. They can revoke it. They can revoke it for any number of reasons, okay? They can revoke it because of fraud. They can revoke it because of some sort of violation, maybe changes in the law, maybe you have a criminal situation. So, you know, that comes up when you're applying for the visa or even when you have the visa, and then it could be revoked. Canceled is usually, it's taken away, the visa is taken away before you receive it. That's usually what cancel means. Okay, people use the words interchangeably. To me, it's all the same. You don't have it. You know, either way, you don't have it. So to me, it's all the same. But basically, if it's revoked, it was given to you, something transpired, and it was taken away. Canceled is you never physically had it, and then it was taken away.
Okay, great explanation to differentiate between the
but
two.
it's you still didn't get it,
Great.
or you don't have it.
I mentioned when we first started that there's a lot of chatter going around in various communities regarding the administration. There have been talk about the Social Security numbers being canceled, as well as students' visas being taken away. This impacts their ability to work, their ability to go to school, their ability to own home. Can you tell us, has this taken effect, and is it legal?
Well, is it legal? I am not going to speak on. But has it taken effect? Yes, it's definitely in effect. Oftentimes when Social Security numbers are, you know, revoked, right? Oftentimes when it's revoked, it's because they think the person has passed away, or fraudulent or some sort of misuse of the number. Maybe the Social Security number, maybe it was misassigned, you know, and it was the incorrect Social Security number, or maybe there was some sort of suspicious or criminal activity. That's usually the reason. What people have to remember, a lot of what is transpiring now is not that it could not happen before. It's just that certain things that are so minor just was not enforced. Okay? When you're on a student visa, it is just permission. And yes, under the First Amendment, everyone within the United States do have that right. It's subject to interpretation because you have a permissive visa. Okay? You know, what you have to realize Some of these things would probably never be enforced otherwise. But sometimes fear is a really good motivator. So if you do things that are very trivial and things that would not ordinarily be an issue, now becomes an issue, it sort of is a concern. It's going to be a concern for everyone.
Okay. How can someone check to see if their social security number has been affected?
There are a couple of things I want to say about that, and I'm gonna say how they can check to see if other things are affected as well. Mm-hmm. With respect to the social security numbers, you can call the social security office. It's kind of difficult to get through right now. You can go to the social security office, but even that's difficult right now to get in, those buildings. And you have to be very mindful. Like I know here in Atlanta, one of the social security offices and the immigration court's in the same building. So I'm not necessarily sure that's a building you may want to go into, without counsel. But you can go to social security office and they would check for you, or you can call them. I mean, that's the easiest way. And I want to double back with respect to the students. I believe that all students, whether or not you got here a month ago, a week ago, a day ago, it does not hurt to contact the school or the university that you're going to, or the school. There are a lot of people here that go to private high schools, right? They come from out of the country. And just check to see if your student visa is still valid. Because people are not getting notifications with respect to their student visas, and you want to make sure your student visa is valid. And that's with respect to almost everything. Because most people, when they travel in and out of the United States, they know they get about 6 months on their I-94. The I-94 is it shows how much time you get as a visitor, right? And now, although a lot of people believe the I-94 is giving them that 6 months, sometimes when you check, it only gave you 2 weeks, or it only gave you a week, or it only gave you a month. But because they're so used to going back and forth, they believe that 6 months is what they're receiving, and it's not. So it's a good idea to check online. And I have all this information on my Instagram. It'll tell you where to go to check to see how much time you were actually given here in the United States when you visited. Reason being, there was a time they used to give you a card in your hand. It was a little white card, and it would say how long you were allowed to stay in the United States, but they no longer give that card. It's now up to you to go online and see how much time you're being given. Recently, I spoke to someone, they thought they were given 6 months. They were only given a month. So, you really need to check. And so when people think, things for students are being revoked and they don't know, or social security numbers are being revoked and they don't know, you can easily get picked up just because you were here or are here as a visitor thinking you have more time, and then you can get picked up because you don't know. It's almost like a revocation or a cancellation in this case, right? Because it's less time before the actual time that you believe it was supposed to be. So, these different things, people just have to double check everything. It's not like before where you can go based on what they tell you at the airport. You need to double check. All right.
And we'll definitely put your Instagram information so they can follow you.
Yeah.
Okay. So can I double back too?
Good.
It was interesting when you were speaking about VAWA.
Mm-hmm.
And what came to my mind, you spoke about women. Are men affected as well?
Yes. It can be a spouse, so because I said spouse, children. It's called Violence Against Women's Act, but it's men as well. So spouses being, if your wife is abusing you, which happens a lot, So if your wife is abusing you, you can file. And if your husband is abusing you, you can file. If you're, it's sort of laid out very, very neatly how they have, who can file. But I think the easiest way is just to remember parents, children, and spouses.
What are the most common immigration?
I'm sorry, let me back up a little bit. I want to make sure, and I think I did mention it, that the abuser has to be either a U.S. citizen or a permanent resident. And in the case of the spouse, obviously, you have to be married to them.
Okay.
All right. And depending on who you're married to, if you're married to a U.S. citizen or permanent resident, will depend on how fast the green card comes through. Because when we do it in this office, we do it as a one-step, meaning we file the VAWA simultaneously with the green card, with the work authorization. We file everything simultaneously. You can do it piecemeal, but I've often found that you tend to get something in your hand a little bit faster. Not necessarily the green card, but at least the work authorization. So you have the ability to go get your driver's license and you get your social security number and that sort of thing. So we tend to file it all together.
Just to move forward, what are the most common immigration challenges people in our community are faced today?
I would say is everybody thinks they know immigration and everybody's a lawyer. I tell you, the things that I've heard. I mean, everyone knows somebody that this happened to, or everyone knows somebody that happened to.
That's the chatter. That's what we talk about, the chatter.
But that's usually the issue. I think that is like the worst, because I get some stuff. I was like, where did you get this? What? No. But it's usually people are just uncertain about their legal status. It's just like I mentioned before. One uncertainty is you don't really know the length of time that you were supposed to be in the United States. Or you don't really know that there are things that you can probably do while you're in the United States. Or things you can do, and maybe we'll say, okay, maybe you need to leave the United States, reassess, and then maybe apply from outside, and so forth. And it's just the uncertainty. But I will tell you this, if you violate any visa, it's almost near impossible you're going to get another one. And that's what people need to realize. Violation of one visa means you can't even transfer to another visa. Okay? And so the key is, to find out what you can do as soon as possible without violating the existing visa. So if you traveled, right, and you're traveling here, you're on vacation, you want to make sure that's a visa that you don't violate. Okay, for a couple of reasons. Number one, you're not going to be able to come back. They say you can, but no, you really can't. And you can't transfer. It's very difficult to transfer to another visa. You can apply for waivers, but not all waivers are granted. And I've seen in some cases, waivers were granted and then later they took back the waiver. So you just want to make sure you don't violate any of the existing visas that you happen to be on. The other thing is lack of legal resources. I think a lot of people do not connect with the proper people to give them the proper advice. Okay. They connect with family, which mean well, but they don't know everything. I'm not saying I know everything, but family, they connect with notarios, which are not lawyers. Mm-hmm. So it's just better just to just see it black and white. If you don't see it in a policy, you don't see it in a reg, meaning regulations, you don't see it in the law, it doesn't exist. Right. Okay? I don't care if your friend's mother, sister's brother, whatever did it. It doesn't exist. If it's not in black and white, it doesn't exist. And I think when people don't have the ability to go to someone and get proper information, that's a problem. The other thing is the language barriers. Everyone do not speak English. And I think sometimes people are afraid to seek help because, they don't speak the language and, they're sort of a little embarrassed. And then the other thing is discrimination. It's everywhere. There's, prejudice when you interview. There's prejudice when you enter the US. There's prejudice when you go to the embassy and you try to get a visa, There's prejudice when you get to the even boarding the plane, they look at the visa, how you got this visa, da, 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 da. There's prejudice when you get here and you gotta face immigration customs and border protection people at the airport. And then there's prejudice at the interview, There's what I have found is that the people who are more like you in the interview, the officers, it's better you get someone that is nothing like you in the interview, because I think you tend to have a better shot. Like if I have, I'm not going to say that part. I was going to, but you know where I'm going. I'm not going to say that part, but you know where I'm going. And give me a Trinidadian interviewer. Don't give me another Jamaican interviewer because they tend to be tougher on the Jamaican clients. That's what I mean. Okay.
And that's great information, but there's so many disinformation out there. I mentioned again the chatter. Where is the best resources that our audience can go to find the up-to-date information as well as the right information?
Well, they could always call my office. I mean, we keep up. A lot of lawyers don't like immigration. And the reason they don't like immigration is because they say it changes too often. I have lawyers that do personal injury and they do entertainment and they do, matrimonial, but they don't want to touch immigration because they said every time they turn around, the laws change, and may not necessarily be the law, but the policy has changed. So it's probably just easier just to go to an immigration attorney and just get the information. You can research it, but oftentimes if you go on these websites and you start to read the legalese, you may not understand it, whereas I love it. So, but that's, everybody's not like that. Everybody don't want to read for a living,
Do you by chance have a newsletter or something that you put out on a monthly basis or a weekly basis that provide up-to-date information?
There was a time that I did that. I no longer do it. What I realize is everyone's visual. So I put most of the things, especially the things that change, I put it on Instagram because I find that it's a quicker, people absorb it quicker. It's in a few seconds. Nobody wants to sit there for a long period of time. Everyone is not like me and you. Nobody wants to read a book. So I just find, or they can go on my website. My website and there's an ebook on my website. You can download the ebook and it has like the most frequent questions, So most of the things that people want to ask, but they're like, I don't want to pay an attorney and just to go and ask one or two questions. Oftentimes, just the general questions, it's going to be on my website.
Great. And so they should subscribe to your Instagram.
They should.
Immigration Lady Lawyer. That's
yes.
Skeeter-Jo. You can get up-to-date information about immigration changes, laws, and you'll get the truth. But I have some more questions for you.
Go ahead.
Can you explain what public charge means and how it might affect an individual immigration case?
Right. I think we spoke about this earlier. Mm-hmm. Basically, it's anyone that's likely to get government assistance. They received it in the past, and they're likely to get it in the future. If they believe that you're more than likely to get either the Medicaid or for a sustained period of time in the future, whether or not it's Medicaid or SNAP, food stamps and any sort of public assistance, and they believe that you're going to be a public charge, meaning you're going to take away assistance from, the United States. It's very possible. Now, I haven't seen it, but I have seen lots of questions about it. Because oftentimes, people would say they were never on public assistance, because some people forget. If the kid is 20 years old and you didn't even realize, or 30 years old and you didn't realize what you signed in the hospital, that's probably what it was. But, I've seen where people say no, and they bring things to me and they say they got this letter in the mail. They applied for this themselves, but they received this letter in the mail. What does it mean? So what do we have to do? We have to call hospitals that are probably no longer in existence. We probably have to, like even here in Georgia, there was a merger. Emory took over a lot of these hospitals. So now, we have to ask them, look, can you dig through here? Can you dig through there? And sometimes they say, we purged this after 10 years. We don't have this information. So then we have to get a statement from them saying, can you give us something saying it's not there, you purged this after 10 years, because it does show up that the person did receive it while they were here, and they're not sure of the dates. But sometimes they don't have the dates, so sometimes we can only estimate the dates. But they have been asking for it.
So is it a yes or no question?
No,
or
ma'am.
Is it okay? So can someone apply, say that I'm unsure or I don't remember?
You can say that, but you still have to give them a date.
Oh.
A matter of fact, I actually have it in front of me here. Right now, there are questions. It has a little bit before, but you can say it starts at about question 63. So 63 is, have you ever received supplemental Social Security, temporary assistance for needy families, TANF, state, federal, tribal, territorial, or local cash benefit programs for maintenance, often called general assistance, and it goes on, right? And that's just question 63. Okay, question 64, have you received long-term institutional, have you ever received long-term institutionalization at government expense? Okay, that's a trick, because everybody thinks that's mental, but you're not necessarily sure what that is. And then that's 64. 65, 66, they're really in depth. Really long questions, really in depth. I'm not going to go through it, but one of the things they do ask you is the benefit received, the start date, the end date, the dollar amount, and is this something that you were exempt from? Oftentimes, you're not exempt from it if you got to question 65 and 66. And then they'll ask you, well, if that did happen, what hospital was it? Was it Kings County in New York? Was it Emory in Atlanta? Was it Children's Healthcare of Atlanta? Was it NYU Hospital? What was it? So they need to know what it was, the date you received it, the reason for you receiving it, and, were you a public charge? Oftentimes people see, especially when they say institutionalized, people are looking at it from a different perspective because they're thinking mental. I say throw everything on there, because you don't know, if you're not sure what the question is, you answer broadly. These questions are not narrow enough for you to not answer broadly. Okay?
So, in other words, you have to make sure that you document any assistance, anything, if you're trying to get status, correct?
You have to document everything, but I always say make sure you clear up the big things first. Have you ever been arrested? These are the big things. You know, those are the things you need to clear up. This other stuff doesn't matter if the big things will get you kicked out before the little things. You understand what I mean?
Okay.
So,
I do have one last question, even though I have so many. This is such a great session, and I know our audience is going to love every minute of this. But because I know your time is valuable and you have meetings after this, this is one of the questions that I have talked to you about behind, out of the camera. But why should you apply for naturalization? And what should you do prior to applying?
okay. You know, a lot of people are probably thinking to themselves, based on what's going on in the news, this naturalization thing, I don't know. It doesn't seem to be helping the people who were born here. But, okay, the thing about
I agree.
the thing about naturalization, it gives you some security. They can question you, but they can't hold you. Okay, for the most part. I know a lot of people that get questioned, but it's very rare that any of them get held with naturalization. Naturalization, I think you can say, provides you a sort of security. You can vote, that's important. You can travel to many different countries without needing a visa, right, for those countries. So to me, it's just one extra level of security that you need. Now, to apply for naturalization, obviously, you have to have your green card for either a period of 3 years or 5 years. It's called the 3-3-3-year rule. If you're, married for 3 years, your spouse has been a citizen for 3 years, and you've had the green card for 3 years, right? So in a period of 2 years and 9 months, they call it the 3-3-3-year rule, but you can call it a 2 years and 9 months rule. Once you've had the green card for a period of 2 years and 9 months, and you got the green card through a U.S. citizen spouse, through a spouse, right? Usually U.S. citizen spouse. And you've had the green card for a period of, 3 years. You can apply for naturalization, all right? And of course, the most important thing is to make sure you have any discrepancies that you think is going to, raise an eyebrow. If you think you have a problem, we can run a background check. We can clear it up, see what's going on. Now, if you say are no longer with that spouse, or you receive the green card through another way other than a spouse, then you have to wait 5 years or 4 years and 9 months, and then you have to apply. But if you're asking me, is it better to have citizenship than a green card right now? The answer is yes. Absolutely. But I would tell you this. Don't give them any low-hanging fruit. If you know you have anything out there, fix it. And if you do have something out there and I think it's questionable, I would tell you don't apply.
Okay, one of the great advice that you gave to me a few weeks ago, when we were talking about immigration, naturalization, was that if a parent get their naturalization before their children are 18 years old, that child automatically is naturalized. Did I repeat that correctly?
In a way you did. Okay, the rule is to arrive derivative citizenship from a parent, the child would also have to have a green card. Okay, so the child has to have the green card as well. The parent has to have a green card. However, the parent received their naturalization before the child turned 18. And then the child will automatically derive citizenship from the parent.
I almost had it right.
You did.
Skeeter-Jo, it's been a pleasure being here with you.
Thank you.
I know a lot of the audience, Caribbean Focus TV audience, have a lot of questions for you. Can you please let them know how to get in touch with you?
Yes. You can contact me through my phone number, 770-896-7991. Again, 770-896-7991. Another way is on Instagram, and it's Immigration Lady Lawyer. Again, Immigration Lady Lawyer. Or you can go on my website. It is francoislawfirm.com, but the easier one is 4greencards with an S.com. So FORGREENCARDS.com.
Again, it's been a pleasure being here with Skeeter-Jo at her law firm. Provided us with so much information about immigration laws as they always changes. So we will always bring you up-to-date information. I want to thank you, Skeeter-Jo, for all
welcome.
of the valuable information you provided our audience. I am Dawnette Lounds with Caribbean Focus TV. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, comment and like, and hit the notification bell. Visit our website at caribbeanfocus.tv. Thank you for joining us and stay focused.
Caribbean Focus TV will bring